If you go to the hospital, you will never come back.
For the children, lockdown was like being in prison.
If you're in a low-paid job, you don't have the option of working from home.
I was hospitalised. My wife was hospitalised. My child was hospitalised.
They are the voices of a community which often feels forgotten. But today, research conducted by local Somali organisations has revealed how the pandemic has disproportionately affected those living in some of the most deprived parts of the city. Saeed is one of the elders in his community. But when he caught coronavirus in March, many feared he would not return from hospital.
In the community, they say if you go to the hospital, you will never come back. That was the idea of the communities. And that was the reason most of the community didn't like to go through NHS to the hospital, because they feel if you go there, you will die.
Saeed explains that because he relies on zero-hour contracts, he ended up losing weeks of income.
I was 10 days in the hospital. When I came back, I cannot go to work. I was very weak.
The report surveyed 50 people in the community over the summer. More than a third of respondents say family or close friends were hospitalised due to the virus. The majority of those surveyed say their finances were impacted upon, and half experienced significant problems with housing over lockdown. The majority of the Bristol Somali community live in places like this: Easton, Lawrence Hill, St Paul's. But these are also the areas which have some of the highest rates of coronavirus in the whole country. And the report has found it's not only people's health here that's been affected, it's also their livelihoods. At this Somali butcher's, Hussein is preparing his bestseller, halal beef. But the pandemic has led to a fall in customers, and restaurants have simply stopped buying. He now faces closing for good.
We can't afford to pay any rent, we can't pay electricity. I pay £500 rent electricity, and rent £1,000. I can't afford that. So horrible nowadays, so bad nowadays.
Nora had the additional challenge of navigating lockdown with her son Zach, who has autism, as well as 4 other children. She runs a support group for mothers in similar positions and says for many, this has pushed them over the edge.
It's a prison that comes no escape, because you are stuck within a system that you cannot function and operate. And I think that is the difficulty this community faces, not knowing where to go, not knowing who to speak to, and not knowing where to seek help.
Somalis traditionally have large families, yet many in the city struggle with unsuitable housing. Using lifts inside these flats means social distancing isn't straightforward, and with mosques closed and limited green space, many have struggled with their mental health. Mukhtar lives in a flat with his brother. He has 8 other siblings. What for you has been the hardest part of this whole epidemic, this whole pandemic?
Yeah, to be honest, loneliness, and I'm always involved in family. Like, I'm always there, always doing the shopping, always like taking them out, always taking them to like whatever they want to do. But obviously since the lockdown, I mean, I can't do a lot of that, and it's, personally for me, it's been stressful.
This afternoon, the authors of the report presented their findings to city leaders. They say they hope it will lead to a change in how their community is treated and supported, at a time when so many are still struggling.
And Max has joined us in the studio, and you mentioned the meeting there with city leaders. What was the reaction then to the findings of this report?
Well, it was very well received. You got the Director of Public Health there, also the Deputy Mayor there listening to the findings. And the report makes a number of recommendations there, and there are 2 major points that the group were listening to today. The first one is around the issue of support in the areas that you saw in my report, and that's particularly to do with sort of mental health provision. A lot of the people that I've been speaking to simply don't know who and where to turn to. The other is down to communication. You've got a lot of elders in these communities who don't speak English as their first language. So when you've got these big government announcements being made, it can get lost a bit, and then there is a sense of mistrust with the government, mistrust even with hospitals. But look, be in no doubt, this is in many ways a perfect storm. You've got a combination of unsuitable housing for people working long-houred, low-paid jobs which are public-facing, and also the fact that you've got black, Asian and minority ethnic people now getting seriously ill due to this virus. And what this report has done is really exposed many inequalities that already exist.